The 2024 United States presidential election will be remembered as one of the most contentious and polarizing moments in modern history. Donald Trump's return to the political arena and his triumph over Kamala Harris captured the attention of a divided nation. Yet, amidst the celebration and controversy, a figure often shrouded in relative mystery, Barron Trump, stepped into the spotlight, making a statement that confirmed long-held suspicions about his father. His admission wasn't merely personal, it reverberated across the political landscape, further fueling debates about the legacy of Donald Trump. Barron Trump, now an articulate and composed young adult, had spent most of his formative years on the periphery of public life. While his siblings actively engaged in the political and business empire of the Trump family, Barron remained largely silent. This silence only added to his mystique, with many wondering what role, if any, he played behind the scenes. As his father celebrated his second electoral victory, Barron broke his silence in a moment that stunned supporters, critics, and commentators alike. The timing of Barron's statement was as calculated as it was impactful. Donald Trump's campaign, characterized by its familiar blend of populist rhetoric, policy promises, and fierce opposition to the political establishment, had secured him another term in the White House. Kamala Harris, despite her efforts to galvanize the Democratic base and present a unifying vision, failed to overcome Trump's resilient appeal among his core supporters. On election night, as Trump took to the stage to deliver his victory speech, Barron stood behind him, his expression poised but contemplative. The nation watched as this once shy figure stepped forward to deliver an admission that would dominate headlines for days to come. Barron's words did not echo the celebratory fervor of the evening. Instead, they carried an undertone of reflection, an acknowledgement of the complexities surrounding his father's rise and sustained hold on power. He admitted that for years he had wrestled with the public's perception of Donald Trump, torn between the larger-than-life persona portrayed in the media and the man he knew as his father. While many viewed Donald Trump as a master manipulator of public opinion and a figurehead for a divisive political movement, Barron suggested that his father's motivations were far more personal and rooted in a relentless drive to prove his worth. The admission resonated with millions who had long speculated about the psychological underpinnings of Donald Trump's political ambitions. Barron described his father as a man deeply shaped by a world that valued strength, success, and unyielding determination above all else. This worldview, he suggested, had not only driven Donald Trump's business empire but had also become the cornerstone of his political identity. The revelation added a new layer of complexity to the Trump narrative, offering insights into the personal dynamics that fueled one of the most polarizing leaders in American history. For supporters of Donald Trump, Barron's comments were a vindication of their belief that their leader was driven by a genuine desire to succeed and restore America's greatness. To them, his unorthodox approach to politics and governance was a reflection of his authenticity, a rejection of the scripted and polished demeanor of traditional politicians. Barron's statement reinforced the idea that Donald Trump's resilience and determination were born from a deeply personal place, making his political victories all the more remarkable. Critics, however, saw Barron's admission in a different light. To them, it confirmed suspicions that Donald Trump's political career was less about serving the American people and more about fulfilling personal ambitions. They argued that his policies, rhetoric, and governance style were designed to bolster his image rather than address the nation's most pressing issues. Barron's acknowledgement of his father's motivations provided fodder for those who viewed Trump's presidency as an exercise in self-promotion and a pursuit of legacy. The implications of Barron's statement extended beyond the realm of political commentary. It sparked conversations about the intersection of personal ambition and public service, forcing many to reevaluate their understanding of leadership in a democratic society. Donald Trump's return to the White House marked a triumph for a political movement that thrived on disruption and defied conventional norms. Yet, Barron's admission reminded the nation that beneath this triumph lay a deeply human story of a man driven by a need to prove himself. Barron's role in the Trump narrative also took on new significance in the wake of his statement. For years, he had been seen as a reluctant participant in his father's political journey, often appearing in the background with an air of quiet detachment. His decision to speak out marked a turning point, signaling a willingness to engage with the public and share his perspective on one of the most contentious figures of the modern era. In doing so, Barron carved out a unique space for himself, distinct from his more vocal and politically active siblings. The public's response to Barron's statement was as divided as the election itself. Supporters of Donald Trump celebrated his son's eloquence and maturity, praising him for providing a personal and introspective view of his father's character. To them, Barron's words were a testament to the strength of the Trump family and their ability to endure the relentless scrutiny of public life. Critics, on the other hand, viewed his statement as a calculated move designed to humanize Donald Trump and deflect attention from the controversies surrounding his presidency. The media frenzy surrounding Barron's admission underscored the enduring fascination with the Trump family and their role in shaping the political landscape. Analysts dissected his words, searching for hidden meanings and implications for the future. Would Barron Trump, like his father and siblings, eventually seek a more active role in politics, or would he remain an enigmatic figure, content to observe from the sidelines? These questions added another layer of intrigue to an already dramatic political saga. Barron's statement also highlighted the generational divide within the Trump family and their respective approaches to public life. While his older siblings had embraced the spotlight and used their platforms to advance their father's agenda, Barron's measured and introspective tone set him apart. His willingness to confront the complexities of his father's character and legacy suggested a level of self-awareness that resonated with younger generations, many of whom struggled to reconcile their own values with the political realities of the Trump era. As the evening of Donald Trump's 2024 victory unfolded, the gravity of Barron Trump's candid revelation became clearer with every passing moment. While his initial statement captured the immediate attention of the media and the public, its ramifications extended far beyond the glitzy stage of a celebratory rally. The layers of this unprecedented acknowledgement peeled back to reveal deeper societal questions about the nature of power, legacy, and the human cost of political ambition. In the days following the election, the spotlight turned sharply toward Barron, who had long been shielded by the thick walls of family mystique, but now stood in the middle of a cultural storm. The Trump dynasty, synonymous with bold declarations and controversial stances, had rarely entertained vulnerability. From the moment Donald Trump descended the escalator in 2015 to announce his first presidential campaign, the family presented a unified front defiant and unyielding, confident, and seemingly impervious to criticism. This image, meticulously cultivated over decades, was central to the Trump brand. Barron's decision to open a window into the personal psyche of his father stood in stark contrast to this carefully maintained narrative. It was as though a towering edifice had a single brick removed, prompting questions about the structural integrity of what remained. The most striking aspect of Barron's emergence was how his tone differed from that of his father and siblings. Donald Trump's public persona is one of dominance and assertiveness. Ivanka, Eric, and Don Jr. often echo these traits, playing their parts as heirs to a larger-than-life legacy. Barron, however, was restrained, contemplative, and measured, introducing a tone that was alien to the traditional Trump discourse. This shift captivated audiences who were unaccustomed to hearing anything but roaring self-assurance from the family. Barron's introspection stood out as a counterpoint to his father's bold proclamations and gave the nation pause to reconsider what lay behind the Trump political machine. As analysis poured in, commentators noted that Barron's words could signify the emergence of a new kind of leadership within the Trump family, one that embraced nuance and reflection over confrontation. This possibility alone spurred intense debate. Could Barron's demeanor signal an evolution in the Trump dynasty's approach to public engagement? Or was this merely a fleeting moment of candor from a young man grappling with the weight of his family name? For many, Barron's willingness to acknowledge the complexities of his father's persona was a refreshing departure, offering a perspective that felt less rehearsed and more human. The political implications of Barron's admission were profound. For Donald Trump's supporters, this moment added another layer to their admiration for the family. They interpreted Barron's comments as proof that even within the pressures of political life, the Trumps were capable of deep self-awareness and familial loyalty. This, they argued, made the family even more relatable to ordinary Americans. Trump's detractors, however, seized upon the moment to highlight what they viewed as the inherent self-interest driving his presidency. Barron's acknowledgement of his father's unrelenting ambition became, in their eyes, evidence of the transactional nature of Trump's leadership. Beyond partisan interpretations, Barron's words resonated on a broader cultural level. In an era increasingly defined by transparency and authenticity, his willingness to address the personal dimensions of his father's leadership struck a chord. Americans, regardless of political affiliation, were drawn to the rare glimpse into the personal struggles of a family that had become emblematic of power and privilege. This humanization, whether seen as genuine or strategic, momentarily transcended the polarization of the election itself. The reaction among younger generations was particularly notable. To millennials and Gen Z voters who had grown up in a world shaped by Trump's polarizing presence, Barron represented something new. His decision to speak from the heart, rather than parrot political talking points aligned with their values of authenticity and individual expression. On social media platforms, discussions about Barron's statement often included admiration for his courage in stepping outside the shadow of his father's dominating legacy. While some dismissed his comments as calculated, others viewed them as a sign of a generational shift, suggesting that the future of the Trump name could look very different from its past. Yet this moment of cultural introspection was not without its detractors. Critics accused Barron of naivety, questioning whether his comments were truly his own or part of a broader strategy orchestrated by the family. Conspiracy theories abounded, with some speculating that Barron's emergence was a carefully timed maneuver to soften Donald Trump's image and appeal to undecided voters in the waning days of the campaign. These claims, though unsubstantiated, highlighted the cynicism that had come to define public discourse in the Trump era. Amid the whirlwind of analysis and speculation, it was easy to overlook the personal toll that this moment likely exacted on Barron himself. At just 18 years old, he had lived much of his life under the relentless glare of public scrutiny. His every move, from his appearances at state functions to his interactions with family members, had been dissected and critiqued. By choosing to speak out, Barron was not only exposing his own vulnerabilities but also inviting further scrutiny of his relationship with his father. This decision, brave as it was, marked a turning point in his life, transforming him from a peripheral figure into an active participant in the Trump narrative. As Barron's words reverberated through the political and cultural spheres, their significance extended to the broader context of the 2024 election. Donald Trump's victory over Kamala Harris was a testament to his enduring appeal among a significant portion of the electorate. His ability to rally supporters with promises of economic revitalization, national security, and a return to traditional values proved to be as effective as ever. Yet Barron's statement subtly reframed this narrative, suggesting that beneath the political slogans lay a deeply personal drive that had shaped his father's actions. This reframing posed uncomfortable questions for both Trump's allies and opponents. For supporters, it forced a reckoning with the idea that their leader's motivations might be more complex and self-serving than they had believed. For critics, it challenged the simplistic view of Donald Trump as a one-dimensional villain, revealing a man whose insecurities and ambitions mirrored those of many who had risen to power before him. This duality, Trump as both a populist hero and a deeply flawed individual, became a focal point of the post-election discourse. In the days following Barron's statement, speculation about his future role in the Trump legacy began to mount. Would he follow in his father's footsteps, embracing the political stage and carrying the family brand into a new era? Or would he chart a different course, rejecting the limelight in favor of a quieter, more introspective life? Thank you for listening. These questions added another layer of intrigue to an already complex narrative, fueling discussions about the generational dynamics within the Trump family. Barron's emergence also prompted a re-evaluation of the role that family dynamics play in shaping political figures. Throughout history, the influence of close relatives on leaders' decisions has often been overlooked in favor of focusing on policy and public rhetoric. Barron's statement served as a reminder that behind every political figure lies a network of relationships and experiences that profoundly shape their motivations and actions. In Donald Trump's case, his family had always been central to his public image, but Barron's words brought this dynamic into sharper focus. The morning after Donald Trump's dramatic election night victory over Kamala Harris, America awoke to a political landscape both strikingly familiar and deeply transformed. The streets buzzed with reactions, social media overflowed with debates, and news outlets churned out think pieces dissecting every angle of what had transpired. Yet, amidst the chaos of celebration, protest, and analysis, Barron Trump's startling revelations from the night before continued to dominate the conversation. If his father's political triumph represented a reassertion of Trumpism in American politics, Barron's candid admission opened a new chapter, one that added depth, humanity, and a touch of vulnerability to the often larger-than-life Trump legacy. What unfolded in the days following Barron's admission was a dynamic reevaluation of the Trump brand. While the world had come to know Donald Trump as a political juggernaut who thrived on controversy and public confrontation, Barron's words suggested a more introspective side to the family. This perspective sparked widespread fascination, with commentators exploring how this new narrative might shape both Donald Trump's presidency and the future of the family itself. The contrast between Donald's bombastic persona and Barron's quieter, more reflective tone only added to the intrigue. Barron's decision to step forward on such a momentous night not only amplified the impact of his words, but also introduced a new layer of symbolism to his father's victory. The scene was emblematic of a dynasty at a crossroads. While Donald Trump's re-election signified the enduring power of his populist movement, Barron's emergence hinted at a possible evolution in the family's approach to public life. The interplay between these two narratives, the familiar Trumpism of the patriarch and the nuanced introspection of his youngest son, captivated a nation still reeling from one of the most hotly contested elections in its history. Barron's statement also served as a lens through which many began to reconsider the broader implications of Donald Trump's return to the presidency. While his supporters celebrated another victory for their political movement, others pondered the psychological and familial dimensions of his leadership. Barron's acknowledgement of his father's deep-seated drive to prove himself illuminated the personal motivations that had long fueled Donald Trump's rise to power. This revelation invited a more empathetic understanding of a man who, despite his polarizing impact on American society, remained deeply human at his core. The cultural ramifications of Barron's words extended far beyond the immediate political sphere. In a society increasingly fascinated by the inner workings of powerful families, his statement added a new dimension to the public's perception of the Trumps. The family, often portrayed as a monolithic entity, suddenly appeared more complex and multifaceted. This shift in perception was particularly significant for younger Americans, many of whom had grown disillusioned with the stark partisanship of recent years. Barron's willingness to engage with the emotional and psychological realities of his father's character resonated with a generation that values authenticity and introspection over bravado and performative rhetoric. As the media delved deeper into the implications of Barron's statement, one recurring question emerged: what role would he play in shaping the future of the Trump legacy? Unlike his older siblings, who had embraced the family's political and business ventures with fervor, Barron had remained largely in the background throughout Donald Trump's first presidency. His sudden emergence as a thoughtful and reflective voice within the family raised the possibility that he might take on a more active role in the years to come. This speculation fueled intense interest, with many wondering whether Barron's approach would mark a departure from the combative style that had come to define the Trump brand. Barron's comments also sparked renewed interest in the dynamics within the Trump family itself. While much had been written about the roles played by Ivanka, Don Jr., and Eric in their father's political and business endeavors, Barron's perspective added a new layer of complexity to the narrative. As the youngest member of the family, his experiences and observations offered a fresh lens through which to view the Trump dynasty. His decision to speak out suggested a level of independence and self-awareness that set him apart from his siblings, many of whom had built their public personas around unwavering loyalty to their father's vision. The generational divide within the Trump family became a focal point of analysis in the aftermath of Barron's statement. Whereas Donald Trump and his older children had built their careers on a foundation of unapologetic ambition and public spectacle, Barron's tone suggested a more introspective approach. This divergence raised important questions about how generational differences might shape the future of the Trump legacy. Would Barron's perspective signal a shift in the family's public image, or would it remain an isolated moment in an otherwise cohesive narrative? For political observers, Barron's emergence also underscored the evolving role of family in American politics. While political dynasties have long been a feature of the U.S. landscape, the Trump family's unique blend of celebrity, business acumen, and political influence set them apart. Barron's willingness to share his thoughts added a new dimension to this dynamic, highlighting the ways in which personal relationships and familial bonds can shape public perceptions of leadership. His comments served as a reminder that behind every political figure lies a network of personal influences and motivations that are often invisible to the public eye. The public's response to Barron's statement was as diverse as the electorate itself. For some, his words represented a moment of clarity and humanity in an otherwise tumultuous political season. His acknowledgement of his father's flaws and motivations struck a chord with those who had long sought a more nuanced understanding of Donald Trump's leadership. For others, however, Barron's comments were met with skepticism, dismissed as a calculated attempt to soften the family's image in the wake of a divisive election. This polarization mirrored the broader divisions within American society, highlighting the extent to which the Trump family had become a lightning rod for cultural and political debates. Amid the debates and speculation, Barron's statement also prompted a deeper exploration of the psychological toll of public life. Growing up in the shadow of one of the world's most polarizing figures was undoubtedly a unique experience, one that shaped Barron's perspective in profound ways. His decision to speak out on the night of his father's victory suggested a desire to assert his own identity and share his truth, even in the face of intense scrutiny. This act of vulnerability resonated with many, serving as a reminder that even those born into privilege are not immune to the pressures of public life. The broader societal implications of Barron's words were equally significant. In an era marked by rapid change and intense polarization, Barron's willingness to engage with the complexities of his father's character offered a rare moment of introspection. It was a reminder that leadership, whether in politics, business, or any other sphere, is ultimately a deeply human endeavor. Barron's comments highlighted the importance of understanding the personal dimensions of leadership, encouraging a more empathetic and nuanced approach to evaluating those in power. As the days turned into weeks, the impact of Barron's statement continued to ripple across the cultural and political landscape. While the immediate focus remained on Donald Trump's return to the White House, Barron's emergence added a new layer of intrigue to the unfolding story. His words served as a powerful reminder of the enduring complexity of the Trump legacy. A narrative defined by ambition, resilience, and an unwavering drive to succeed. For better or worse, it's a narrative. Barron's decision to speak out on that historic night ensured that his voice would remain an integral part of that story for years to come. Barron Trump's unexpected candidness on the night of his father's 2024 election victory not only reverberated through the immediate aftermath, but also began reshaping the broader narrative around the Trump family's legacy. With every passing day, his words drew sharper scrutiny and analysis, exposing the layers of complexity within a family often dismissed as monolithic in their ambitions and beliefs. It became clear that his moment of reflection had cracked open a door long sealed, providing a rare glimpse into the inner workings of a dynasty that has held the world's attention for nearly a decade. What stood out most in the wake of Barron's revelation was the quiet bravery required to offer such personal insight at a time when celebration and triumph dominated the family atmosphere. For years, the Trumps had epitomized the image of a family aligned in purpose, projecting unwavering confidence in their collective vision for America. Barron's words disrupted this carefully curated image, but in doing so, they brought a sense of authenticity and dimension that had previously eluded the public's perception of the family. While some saw his comments as an act of rebellion, others interpreted them as an earnest effort to bridge the gap between the family's public image and their private realities. For political historians, Barron's emergence raised intriguing questions about how familial influence shapes political leadership. Donald Trump's return to the presidency was already historic in its own right, but Barron's statement added a new layer of narrative complexity to the milestone. It suggested that the family dynamics behind the scenes, often unseen and unspoken, could play a pivotal role in the decisions made in the Oval Office. Barron's reflections seemed to hint at an internal dialogue that may have shaped, or at least influenced, his father's approach to governance. This revelation introduced a compelling dimension to the Trump presidency that demanded further exploration. One of the more striking aspects of the aftermath was how Barron's statement intersected with larger cultural movements surrounding authenticity and generational change. The late 2010s and early 2020s had seen a societal pivot toward valuing openness, vulnerability, and individual expression qualities that Barron embodied in his address. His willingness to speak candidly, even in the face of inevitable criticism, resonated with younger audiences in a way that none of his older siblings had managed. This resonance gave rise to speculation that Barron could emerge as a distinct figure within the Trump family, one whose leadership style might diverge significantly from the aggressive, self-assured branding that had characterized his father and siblings. This generational divergence became a focal point in discussions about the future of the Trump dynasty. While Donald Trump's second term seemed poised to deliver more of the bold, populist rhetoric that had defined his first presidency, Barron's words suggested a quieter, more introspective approach to leadership might someday emerge from within the family. The idea of a more reflective Trump resonated with some and was met with skepticism by others. Still, it was undeniable that Barron's presence and perspective had introduced a new dynamic into the family's public image. Moreover, the cultural fascination with Barron's words extended beyond their implications for the family's willingness to humanize his father. And by extension, the Trump brand invited a broader conversation about how society understands and critiques leadership. Historically, political leaders have often been either lionized or vilified, with little room for nuance in the public discourse. Barron's acknowledgement of his father's flaws and complexities challenged this binary, offering a more layered understanding of Donald Trump as both a leader and a father. This shift in perspective was significant as it encouraged the public to grapple with the human side of a figure who had become a symbol of ideological division. Barron's moment of vulnerability also reignited debates about the role of children in the political spotlight. Unlike his older siblings, who had willingly stepped into public roles as surrogates and advocates for their father's policies, Barron had remained largely out of view, shielded from the harsh glare of media scrutiny. His decision to speak out marked a departure from this pattern and raised important questions about the pressures faced by the children of prominent figures. His ability to articulate such a nuanced perspective at a young age suggested a level of maturity and self-awareness that many found both surprising and admirable. The ramifications of Barron's statement were also felt within the Trump support base. Among diehard supporters, his words were seen as a testament to the family's strength and unity, even in the face of personal and political challenges. For critics, however, the revelation was interpreted as further evidence of the transactional nature of Donald Trump's ambitions. These polarized reactions underscored the extent to which the Trump name had become a symbol of broader cultural and political divides, with every statement and action subjected to intense scrutiny and debate. As discussions about Barron's role in the Trump narrative continued, attention also turned to how his words might influence perceptions of his father's second presidency. While Donald Trump's first term had been defined by bold policies and constant controversy, his second term began under the shadow of Barron's revelations, which introduced a more humanizing and complex narrative. Whether this shift would have any tangible impact on Trump's leadership style or policy decisions remained uncertain. But it was clear that Barron's influence would not be easily dismissed. Barron Trump's emergence as a thoughtful and introspective voice within the Trump family added an unexpected twist to an already historic election night. His words reminded the nation that even the most larger-than-life figures are shaped by deeply personal relationships and motivations. In a political era often defined by stark divisions and rigid narratives, Barron's willingness to embrace nuance and vulnerability offered a rare moment of connection and reflection. While the immediate focus remained on the implications of Donald Trump's victory, Barron's revelation ensured that his voice would remain a central part of the ongoing conversation about the Trump legacy. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, could you leave your comments below and tell us? What are your thoughts on Barron Trump's admission about his dad after the 2024 win? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching and see you next time.